Let me ask you this, Evan. What will success for Mina Protocol look like in 5 years, or what type of dApps do you see being built on top?
So is a Coinbase listing imminent at a certain point, would you say?
How is Mina better than ETH2 or Cardano or Polkadot, who are right now sort of the major players in the smart contract space? All right, welcome back everybody to Altcoin Daily. My name's Austin. Of course, I'm here with my brother Aaron and a very special guest today, Evan Shapiro, co-founder, CEO of O1 Labs. And you guys probably know him as a board member of the Mina Foundation and Mina Cryptocurrency. Evan, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So I have one goal with this interview. I don't know what Aaron's agenda is. I don't know what your agenda, but my agenda is there's a lot of buzz right now about the Mina cryptocurrency. I know you have big funding from Coinbase Ventures and tons of other notable investors. So I want to find out exactly what Mina Protocol is and why that matters to the average person. Are you game?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, cool. First, let's just go a little more big picture. How did you first get into cryptocurrency?
Yeah, I let's see. So we have to go back quite a while to when I was in high school. I was a pretty nerdy kid who liked programming a lot. And I spent a lot of my time on the internet, on Less Wrong and other internet forums. And somehow through that, I discovered Bitcoin. This was very early on, 2011, 2012 timing. And I kind of talked about it with friends a bunch and stored it away in my head as oh, this is a really cool thing. And being so into programming at the time, I was oh, this is cool. You can write code and spin up what really amounts to, I think now as I think about it, a new social reality. You can just build incentives and build institutions that wasn't possible before. And you can share it on the internet, which is amazing. So the project got started when myself and a close friend from high school, Izzy Meckler, kind of synced back up after college. And we were both kind of just well, this whole cryptocurrency thing, what do we want to contribute to it? Let's actually do something. Maybe we can build something cool here. And I think specifically we went back to thinking, what can we do to empower regular people with this technology? Because that was, I think, where heads were originally when we discovered it. And this was early 2017, and it felt like the space was maturing and things were happening, but not for your average person. Blocks were getting really, blockchains were getting really big. There wasn't really a solution to this in particular. And we asked ourselves, could we make a solution that would make it easier for people to verify a cryptocurrency? And that's how the project began.
Interesting. And before we get to that, when you first discovered Bitcoin and Ethereum, did you, or maybe just Bitcoin back in 2011, did you just stick to Bitcoin, or did you speculate as an investor through different cryptocurrencies?
This is I followed Bitcoin, all the Litecoin, random altcoins, Ethereum. I followed the whole thing and I didn't invest at all. I just followed it as a technologist. Maybe somewhat of a regret, but I'm also thrilled to be working on the project now. So yeah.
Cool.
So before, because I still having trouble understanding exactly what Mina is, but before we get to that, we're in a bull market. For the folks at home, I think you're bullish on Bitcoin still. I don't know if you're bullish on Ethereum. Do you have any thoughts going towards the end of the year? Maybe a prediction for either of those?
I mean, let's see. So I don't know. It's hard. Predicting on price is like a fool's. I can't do it anyway. It's not. I can't do it.
Not financial advice.
Not financial advice, but in terms of just kind of the trajectory of the projects and how I kind of think about them, I feel at this point Bitcoin is basically establishment now. It did it, which is incredible. Thinking back to it a few years ago, it's so accepted now to a degree which is unbelievable. I feel we're in a really interesting place with this cycle, because I think that last cycle the technology wasn't there yet, but this cycle the technology is there. I think what's going to happen is at some point people will start thinking about, we actually need to build real products on top of this space, and that'll be what the next few years will be about, is building these kind of real products. And I think cryptocurrency is really different than things that came before. So I'm really excited to see what happens. This is like, I guess, less of a prediction, more of just like a high level thought on the trend. But I think like Bitcoin like did it. It's like established. I think it'll be up to like everything else to kind of prove its way out in the way that like takes advantage of cryptocurrency in a way that like hasn't really been imagined before. Like, anyway, yeah, I'm very excited for that.
Nice. And would you say the biggest challenges, if you're, I mean, you can include Bitcoin in this too, but more so with the smart contract platforms, is scalability the biggest challenge that those DApp platforms face?
I think no. I think that at this point, there's a group of people that have kind of accepted that it's okay to like that, like, you know, I think technically we're at a place where we can do high throughput if we're willing to sacrifice some decentralization. At least it seems that way at the moment. I think that when, you know, the throughputs are really there and these aren't just like capacity numbers on a website, like things will start breaking and it'll be interesting. I don't think the scale problem is fully solved yet. But I think it's very different than like 2017, for example. I think that the space is ready for products, and like the tech is, and the amount of people in the space that can provide technical solutions is ready. Yeah.
Cool. So let's get into Mina. Could you explain what it is and, you know, how we should be thinking about it? Is it comparable to a DApp platform, or please explain?
Yeah, I guess I'd start by saying, like, at the foundational level, Mina is like a cryptocurrency that has baked zero knowledge proofs very deeply into the architecture. And this gives us, like, you know, what is a zero knowledge proof? Whatever. Like, here's like the two, like some practical things it actually gives you. The first really big one is that it lets you verify the whole chain by just looking at the zero knowledge proof instead of looking at the whole history. So this decouples the traditional kind of trade-off between decentralization and scale you see with most existing cryptocurrencies with traditional architectures. So no matter how old Mina gets, the zero knowledge proof will always be the same size, and it's only a few kilobytes. So you can download it on, like, you know, your phone, your browser, wherever, and get permissionless access to Mina. So that's the first half. The second half is it does give a lot of these zero knowledge proof tools to developers, which enables our application platform, which we called like snaps for like snarkified dApps. And that's the other half of it.
Cool. So what are people going to be doing on it once it gets going? Is it they'll be building and stuff?
So I think there's the main thing for at least like the very beginning is going to be like building out this Snap platform, because snaps add a lot of really novel primitives to decentralized apps. And there's, for a developer that wants to use privacy, for a developer that wants to put real world data safely onto a chain, Mina has the tools to do that. And I think that's going to be like kind of an immediate like use case for people to use. In the longer term, I think Mina has a really important role in the ecosystem to play, because as these chains get even bigger and they're more widely used, it's going to become more important that we have a way of accessing them that is permissionless, and that we don't have to go through like kind of trusted authorities to get access to crypto. And then in that, it'll really help, I think, get users access to the chain in a permissionless way, because that's what the tech is built to do.
Interesting. And I just want to back up from me. How is this? I'm not a developer. Could you explain or just go further on zero knowledge proofs and how that doesn't sacrifice security or decentralization for the scalability?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess, like, let me try to like give a brief explanation of what a zero knowledge proof is. A zero knowledge proof is a cryptographic object, like in the same way the public keys are cryptographic objects, hash functions are cryptographic objects. They're a cryptographic object which has the following property. They can take any computation and they can produce a proof of it, where that proof can hide some facts about the computation, for example, hiding some private secret data about it, and verifying that the zero knowledge proof does the computation you want in the way you want is constant time, at least for our kinds of zero knowledge proofs, independent of what the actual computation was. So you can have, you know, a big computation which happens on a supercomputer which takes 1,000 years and has everyone's private information. The supercomputer spits out a zero knowledge proof. You can then get a proof of that on your phone. You don't see the private information. You know what the result of the computation is. So applying that back to Mina, when you want to use a blockchain in a decentralized way, you download all these blocks, you check them all, you know that you're looking at the real, like, strongest, like, highest weight point of that blockchain. But what you've really just done is performed a computation. So what we've done with Mina is we've replaced that computation of downloading all these blocks and checking them with a zero knowledge proof that contains exactly the same computation. So it's a one-for-one correspondence, but the zero knowledge proof makes it extremely cheap to effectively have run the computation, in a sense, on a, you know, cheap, low-powered, or just like kind of a normal person's device.
And is that as secure as the base layer, I guess?
Yeah. The computation that you're checking is the same. It's the same computation that you would run normally to check a blockchain.
And how easy is this? Like, how come we're not seeing all these smart contracts that, you know, maybe were launched a few years ago getting into zero knowledge proofs? How easy is this to implement?
So that's the thing. When we started it, it was not easy to implement at all. It was very new technology. Like, the existence of efficient recursive zero knowledge proofs was only a couple of years old. It was like completely brand new. My co-founder was doing a PhD at Berkeley at the time in cryptography. So we were fortunate to, like, kind of have the knowledge that, like, oh, like, maybe this crazy thing is actually possible, and try to build something off of it. They've come a long way since then. They don't need trusted setups anymore. There's, like, efficient recursion generally, which is amazing in the context of no trusted setup. You're seeing some of this start to take off with ZK rollups, which is, like, sort of like a weaker, like, scaling only version of some similar tech. And you still need to, like, do things in, like, sort of a custom way. We built our own programming language to make it easy for us to actually write a very large zero knowledge program. And it's getting easier, but, like, it's still, like, it's like a new piece of cryptography. It was like a huge, you know, completely, like, you know, props to, like, the team for being able to build it. It's like, it was a big effort.
Cool. So explain to me this, because I think this is pretty cool, kind of a differentiator compared to a lot of other projects you see in the space, that you guys got backed by Coinbase Ventures and seemingly well-funded. How does a couple high school friends, college kids, you know, get funding from Coinbase? That seems like a big deal to me.
I mean, by the time that happened, like, we had been, like, you know, on this thing for a while, and we had, like, other supporters and stuff. I think, honestly, like, I think that there's a couple things that happened. One is, like, we realized we wanted to do a company. We, like, kind of just, like, hit the streets, like, asking around for, like, how do we do this thing, and, like, who would fund us. I think, like, you know, I definitely, like, feel like a lot of, like, you know, like, you know, humbled, and, like, a lot of very lucky that, like, we were able to do that. Like, I don't think it's an opportunity everyone gets, and hopefully with crypto more people will be able to, but, like, you know, I think it was really fortunate. And then I think that, like, by the time they came on, like, we had been doing this for, like, I think 2 years at the point. We had, like, brought on, like, a team. We were, like, you know, coding this thing. We had, like, prototypes working. We had, like, people in the space that, like, had checked our thing and been like, oh, cool, like, this is good. And I think that it was just, like, a lot of momentum resulting in, like, in them seeing the project. But I think also, like, that's kind of like the threshold you need to, like, be at a point where, like, someone will notice you. But, like, at that point also, I think they recognize, like, the possibilities unleashed by the technology, that this was, like, a new way to think about blockchains, and it could, you know, provide a lot of technical advantages over the existing architectures that everyone else was doing, because they didn't have this recursive zero knowledge proof technology. Sorry, I think I rambled over there, but that's my, like, summary of it.
No, I find it really interesting. So, like, what kind of support do they provide? Is it monetary support, obviously, but besides that, I mean, Coinbase is so ingrained in the space in general. What kind of support do they provide?
I think, like, for all of these VCs, like, generally they provide two things, like, beyond capital, obviously. The first is they've seen a bunch of projects, and not just, like, the ones that, like, we know that have succeeded. They've seen the ones that haven't worked out. And so they're able to give really good advice about various decisions you might make as a company, down from like office space to like, how you should think about your strategy. And I think that's like kind of the main thing is like that, and also just kind of like access to like network and good people. Yeah.
So is a Coinbase listing imminent at a certain point, would you say?
I can't speak to that one. I'd say like, you just got to follow the news on these things.
For sure, for sure.
Let me ask you this, Evan. What will success for Mina Protocol look like in 5 years, or what type of dApps do you see being built on top?
I mean, I think like I'll feel like there's success if we've managed to like empower developers to build technologies that empower their users rather than just kind of like have this adversarial relationship with users that I feel like you see with Silicon Valley tech today. I think in particular, like what that'll look like is Mina as this like kind of private on-ramp to like real world data flowing onto cryptocurrency, like using the snaps layer as a way to like pull data from the internet safely onto cryptocurrency, doing privacy around sensitive information, and then feeding that information to the rest of the ecosystem, while simultaneously giving users a permissionless way to access all of that. I think is like the other half of it, so that we don't have intermediaries that look to, jockey for power in the middle between users and the projects. So if we can do that, like I would be so happy and like thrilled. Like I think like it'd be a great contribution to the space and like successful for the project. And yeah.
You will still be working on the project in 5 years?
As of now, seems so. Yeah, that's the plan.
I love it. And how is, again, I don't come from a developer background, so maybe you've explained this, but maybe we could just reiterate it again. If Ethereum does scale to ETH 2.0, how is Mina better than ETH2 or Cardano or Polkadot, who are right now sort of the major players in the smart contract space?
I think that for one, it'll do with like the level of decentralization you get. Even if ETH stays where it is right now, like it's still hundreds of gigabytes to download. I think probably more than that. I think like for a full archive node, it's more than a terabyte, but I don't remember the exact specifics. But anyway, they're humongous. Like no user is running this anymore. It's just like companies or people that like have the resources to do it. Mina can still bring that to the table, no matter what happens with ETH or ETH2 or whatever. The other half is Mina's architecture embeds snarks very deeply down the stack. It's like a core primitive that is very efficient. So if you look at these other protocols, implementing zero knowledge proof on top of them would require them to like upgrade their smart contracts in a very major way, and still might not be efficient because of the necessity to have succinctness to do recursion for a technical property that probably shouldn't get into. But like I think like even there, like even if they succeed at all those things, like they'll still have challenges with decentralization, and they'll have challenges integrating snarks deeply for privacy and other advantages.
And interesting. And just one more follow-up. How decentralized is Mina? Can anybody run a node?
Anyone can run a node, and there is no minimum threshold to stake. So
I like that.
I mean, you probably like if you stake with like one Mina, like I don't know if that's going to be worthwhile for you, but you can do it. It's an option.
Let me ask you about something I saw on your site, I think. It says, unlike most blockchains that do not interact with the internet, Mina can interact privately with any website. Could you elaborate on this, and why is this important for the average person?
Yeah, so here's what we're thinking of, here's what we're building, and I think here's why it's cool. You have right now all these different Oracle providers for cryptocurrency, and at the end of the day, when you like kind of click into the white paper and like read the fine print, they're kind of, you're trusting like an economically incentivized entity, which I think of as like, you're kind of just trusting an entity at that point. What we're doing instead is we're leveraging a combination of snaps and HTTPS to make it possible to take anything on an HTTPS website and produce a proof that this was on this website at this time, and here's a proof that it actually was there. And so just to give you kind of an example of how this works end to end, I could prove to someone that if I go to creditkarma.com, that creditkarma.com shows my credit score as over 700, And I can provide that now as a proof to a decentralized app to get access to a DeFi loan at a lower rate, without revealing the specifics of my identity or the specifics of my exact credit score, if that makes sense for it.
And that's like linked to just the user interface of the website, or it's connecting like deeper to the information? Could somebody change like what you see on the screen? You know how you can like go through and kind of change? Is that?
So that's the thing. Like, so there's HTTPS embeds cryptography to send information over from a server in a way that like, you know that the server is really sending you the information. It's not being like, modified. So there are some like technical steps to do this because of things relating to like asymmetric and symmetric keys. but at the end of the day, you can, with pretty minimal trust guarantees, be sure that a user didn't modify anything on the page, that this is actually being served from, the certificate of, Credit Karma in this example, and not from the user.
Interesting.
You talked about oracles, or you just mentioned it, but let me ask you, what do you think about Chainlink, dude? Is it worth the hype, or what are your thoughts?
I think that like the concept is worth the hype. I don't think that I think it's like really hard because I don't think that like the space is there yet. Chainlink is like a few price feed oracles right now. It's not quite there, but we think that like this is really important to do for the space in general. So we think that like from a market perspective, it's right. And we also think that like it's important to do it in the right way, with privacy for users so they don't have to leak all their data when they move things on chain, and in a way that minimizes the level of centralization in producing these oracles, so you can have like really strong trust guarantees. So like, I don't know about Chainlink, but like we're very like bullish on the oracles in general in the space. They have, like, internet and crypto have to connect together if we're really gonna like build the next version of all this stuff, I think.
True, but Chainlink's a little hyped up. That's what you're saying.
I mean, I like the Oracle space. I don't know about Chainlink as a technical solution to the as it is right now. So
how that one gets so special, I don't get it.
Well, they do great.
If I only knew, I don't have the answer.
Yeah. But speaking of that, from a developer point of view, because it's rare we get to have a developer on to pick his or her brain, what projects in the crypto space I don't want to say impress you, but do you find and be like, oh, I like that. That's interesting. Besides Mina.
Oh, okay. I think, let's see. Honestly, like there's two sets of answers to this question. Like the first is like, I think there's like a lot of protocols, which I think are doing really interesting things, that like fit different niches than what Mina's trying to do. Like, and I think that like those projects are like pretty interesting. Like I would throw like Solana in that bucket, for example. Like I'm not fully sold on like the decentralization versus scale story, but like technically like it's a interesting achievement. I think the other thing that like I like admittedly need to like spend more time digging like, actual like coding hours into, but like I think is really interesting is just kind of watching how like the Ethereum space is evolving at like a product level. Just like seeing all these different like DeFi products come around and all the different like ways that they're being built makes me really excited for like the level of experimentation there. I don't have like any in particular call out. Like the mechanisms behind these are usually like extremely simple, like very simple programs, but the actual like, I like think of myself like more of just kind of like I like to hack around and just like write little snippets of code that are cool. So like that is a really interesting space for me. Yeah.
Cool. And obviously I've seen other interviews with you. I always, and for other projects too, it's not a question of I want to be the Ethereum killer. It's the Ethereum interoperator. And I know you're working with the Ethereum Foundation in some sense, but would you say Ethereum is your biggest competitor out there or no?
I mean, I don't feel like it's like I don't think it's at least from my perspective, it's not the right question right now. Like, I think that at least for like the near term, all these projects got to work together, and we're like very happy to like work together and like plug things in to like help them grow as well. Like, I think that we can, it's pretty cliche, but like we can all kind of win at this point. At least a lot of us can win because we can all help each other like make crypto real. And like from that perspective, like I don't have a problem with Ethereum. I like Ethereum. I think like I would, I'm happy that we're working together in some way, and that's great. how this all settles out, I don't know in the far future, but like, at least at the moment, like I see them as friends and we're like happy to work together.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
And just for, again, in layman's terms, are the type of dApps that are going to be built on Mina, are they going to be the exact same that we're seeing being built on Ethereum, or is it more specialized to the private sector?
Yeah, very not the private sector, but for privacy. What I can imagine Mina doing right now, at least this is like the first set of things I think that we're seeing demand for, is Mina as a layer that provides kind of like data intake into other chains and other apps. So for example, like the partner working with right now that we're like, providing this credit score feed to as a service from like Mina, so they can use it on their platform and they can leverage that off-chain credit score data verifiably and privately from their application. So I think like imagine you have all these different dApps, which probably are like on Ethereum because like that's where all like liquidity is and all the users are, but they like have like a plugin which runs on Mina, which like gives them access to this privacy and gives them access to this data, so that they can build new cool stuff.
Very interesting.
For our final few minutes, I know I have a fun question I want to ask you, but I guess is there anything about Mina that we haven't asked you yet that you think it's important to mention?
I think like one thing that's important is the community. Like I think we're in the early days of this, but like we definitely feel like this technology exists to empower users and exists to empower a community. So like we're focusing very hard on like building the structures needed to like have like a self-supporting and like healthy like large community that can like help build out the vision we have for the project and like help us work together to like figure out exactly where we want the vision to be and where we want to take it and help us do it. And I think like we've seen a really good response to that, and like we just like love including people in what we're doing and them being part of it. So
don't you guys
yeah.
Don't you guys have an incredible following on, is it Telegram or Discord, over 40,000 or what's the number?
Our Telegram's over 60,000.
Damn, yeah. You guys are growing.
It's grown a lot. Yeah. I mean, like just a couple of years ago, we were like us and like, like maybe 20, 30 technical community members, like in a Discord, like figuring this out. So it's really incredible to see how much it's grown. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. Well, I have one final fun question, and then if anybody has anything else to say, besides Bitcoin. No, I mean actually, besides Mina, if you could spend $1,000 in cryptocurrency today, how would you do it? Not financial advice, but like how would you diversify $1,000 in crypto today?
That's a good question. I think I would spend it doing the following thing, which I would spend it learning about the ecosystem of applications being developed on Ethereum around DeFi, which seems at the moment kind of like it's like technically real and it's like big, but it's also kind of like a toy. But I would like try to understand how that works at like a deep level so that I could like think about contributing my own little gadget to it if I wasn't working on Mina. And I would think of it like as like an investment for me to like learn how to plug my own gadget into that space if I wasn't doing this project.
And how about some coins though? If you had $1,000 to invest in some cryptocurrencies, you've made it clear you're wouldn't do that, but just for fun.
Oh man, let's see. What's a fun project these days?
Like,
all right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a great answer here because like I'm thinking like my interest in the space is like I think we can like build something like really unique here, like in terms of like contributing to like what the world looks like. And if anyone has any projects that are like particularly looking for like building an inclusive community, building like a democracy on top of them, new forms of governance, like that's what I would like want to get involved in. But I'm not seeing that to the extent that like I don't have one that just like pops to mind somehow, which is like kind of crazy. Maybe I'd put it in a like some kind of DAO, but I don't have a great answer. I would like use it to explore the space.
Cool.
And to follow up on, you said you learn on how to create your own plugins. Like specifically, would you invest in books or learning? How would you give me some guidelines how people?
I see. I meant like, buying into like DeFi applications on Ethereum, because I would want to learn what's going on there and how to build, like actually code something on my own in that area.
Cool. And I'm not saying specifically, but like the compounds or like the sort of basic level.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. And again, going big picture cryptocurrency wise, because you have been involved in the space since around 2011, what is the single biggest piece of advice you would give to a new person entering the crypto space in 2021?
I mean, it's extremely cyclical. Like, be prepared for an emotional roller coaster of like, no matter if you're investing or whether you are like a programmer, like it's just crazy how much like enthusiasm enters and then it exits and then enters again. I would say like get into the space for like the right reasons. Like I think like this is like this is and can be a movement of like kind of new technical and social discovery, and everything else is like could just be a flash in the pan. So like be prepared, like follow your values and see if you can understand and get involved long term.
And did you like looking back to when you first entered, do you have any sort of mistakes you've made or times you've realized, oh, I'm glad I went in this direction with what you were just speaking about?
I mean, let's see. I think like this is a little different than I was saying, but like I think the main one is like, we took so much time to figure out like technical things of the protocol, and like that's time that like you kind of have to invest to like get it right. But like if I go back in time and be like, oh, like don't do this whole project, like this is like gonna waste like 3 months, like you think you have to do it now, but don't do it. Things like that would like be top of mind. But yeah, I think I think that's the main one for me.
Do you think by 2022 Bitcoin will be in a bear market, or is this time different?
Oof, this is so hard. At some point we'll be in a bear market. I don't know if it'll be 2022.
That's fair.
But it's unclear to me what bear market will mean, given that Bitcoin seems to be like, it has so much more uptake now than it ever has had before. Like, what does bear market even mean in that context? Like, when I started, Bitcoin was, like, what was it? Like, it was like so much cheaper than it is today, and like so much less interest, and like so much like FUD around it as an entire thing. And now it's like so accepted. So, I struggle to understand what bear market even means anymore, which is maybe a bad sign, but that's where I'm at.
For sure.
This time's different, like you said. No, I agree with you. That's a good way to put it. Now, where can people follow up with you and Mina? Please give us the links and the landing pages when people want to get involved or find more information.
Yeah. So I think our Twitter is like the best place to just follow news. It's like, at Mina Protocol. If you want to like get more deeply engaged with the project, you want to go to our Discord, and that like, go to our website, minaprotocol.com, you find a link to Discord. And we just have like, a big community that's always chatting in there. And like, this is both things like, I don't understand how this works. Like, explain how this works to us. Or like, this is really cool. Like, can I do this on it? Like, help me like, get started. So literally whatever questions or things you have, like there's a big community there, and we want to include people and help out. And it's a fun place.
Very cool. I will put some links down below in the description. Evan, I appreciate you playing ball with our rapid fire questions. I really feel like I have such a better understanding of what Mina is since you came on. So thank you.
Glad to hear. Yeah, thanks for having me on.